What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the three major keys to route running. So we're going to be talking about the three main things that you guys need to be able to do as a wide receiver to create separation, keep separation, and become an overall better route runner, okay? But also, fellas, today we're having a 50% off sale on our 28-day wide receiver gym program. So if you want to get faster, stronger, bigger, become a better overall wide receiver with specific exercises in the gym, work together in a 4-week plan for you, check out that very first link in the description. Again, 50% off today only. Hope we can get you guys on that soon. Again, 50% off. Let's get started. So first things first, going to be looking at this like kind of diamond release slant right here from the FCFL, right? And now again, there's talent all over. There are great routes all over from high school all the way up, right? So there are always things that you can learn from. You always want to be a student of the game as a receiver. And the main thing that I want to talk about, the number one key to route running, especially today that we're going to talk about, is explosive cuts and being sudden with your cuts. So what does that exactly mean? How do you do that, right? So you see when we come off, we go with this diamond release. So what a diamond release is, like this is just kind of like a setup, little hesitation, getting a read on this DB. Then we're taking 3 hard steps on a 45-degree angle to get that DB to turn his hips. Then I slip back underneath them, whether it's an in route, whether it's a slant route, whatever, right? So now I come off here. Now you see how this receiver, he takes 3 hard steps. It's 1, 2, 3. But you see how when he's doing this, his eyes are forward. Hips and shoulders are committed to the break. He's staying in stride, right? That's what gets that DB to turn his hips, but that's what makes you have an explosive cut. We're going to be talking about deception in a second here and just what you guys can do to sell your routes a little bit better. Then we're going to be talking about the IQ side of things. But the most important thing is that to make this cut sudden, you cannot slow down, right? So many receivers will come off here and they'll take these 3 steps. They'll go 1, 2, and then they start to slow down, raise their pad level. Then they make that third cut, and they either reach out and lean way back and they drag their back foot, or they just slow themselves all the way down, and that cut is an explosive. Like when you're working drills, like you should be able to hear that cut pop through in the grass. You should be able to hear that thing just pop, pop as you're coming out of any kind of cone drill. Anything that you do on the field, you should be able to hear that cut. And I'm not saying stomp with your heel. I'm saying you want to be on that explosive part of your foot, that like balls of your feet inside arch, because that's what's going to push you out, and that's what's going to give you explosion. So to be able to have sudden cuts, you hear people talk about it all the time. I want to have sudden feet. I want to be able to have those explosive cuts where I cut on a dime. You got to make sure that you guys commit with your speed, commit with your hips and your shoulders, and the suddenness of that cut is what will change direction for you, right? So a lot of things that tie into it is like your hamstring strength, right? Knee and ankle stability. Those are things that you got to be able to work on, got to be able to stretch a lot too, so you have that flexibility, and obviously work on those fast twitch exercises. That's why we talk about that gym program in the beginning of this video, to give you that explosion, right? So that's how you make that sudden cut. Now, how do I get explosion out of there, right? So like I was saying, you want to cut on that inside part of your foot so you can drive off that inside part of your foot. So anytime you're making that speed cut, it's all about driving out of the break, because anybody can get to this point. DB turned his hips, but can I push off of that leg and really explode off of it and turn that explosion at the top of the break into acceleration so I could win the race back to the ball? That's really all it is. When you break it down super simple, can I get space and can I win the race to the ball? Simple. That's literally it. Can I sell vertical, create some explosion, accelerate, win the race to the ball? Those are the 3 things that you got to worry about. All the other stuff, yes, it's extra. It's all detailed work though, right? That is the main goal. That is the main key, right? So when you push off of that inside arch, and especially when you don't lean back, guys who make a cut in this position where they're like, not chest is forward, but they're in like an explosive pad level. They're not super high. They're not super low. This is where you create explosion. It's almost like a 40-yard dash, right? When you run a 40-yard dash, that first 10 yards, like you're trying to create energy, maybe like 5 to 8 yards, maybe not necessarily 10, but like that first 5 yards is like a drive phase. You're trying to be as powerful as possible to give you that explosion to turn into acceleration so you could finish at top speed. You don't taper off, because you naturally will taper off as you're running 40-yard dash. So that's why you create that explosion. Same thing with the cut, right? I want to make that explosion here so I could accelerate and not taper off when I win that race back to the ball. And you see this receiver does a great job of actually pumping those arms, accelerating off the break and getting out of this thing. So that's how you make more explosive and more sudden cuts. That's the first major key to route running. Let's watch this thing again, full speed. So great job selling vertical, pop this thing off, accelerate, and run back to the ball. Okay, so now what we're going to be focusing on here is we're going to be focusing on selling routes. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about a lot of selling vertical. This is particularly a double move. This is an out and up route. And then we're going to be talking about what will make a DB bite, what's going to get this guy to jump, and maybe just some of the things that this receiver could have done a little bit better on this route. Okay, so now when he comes off here, you see how fast he moves into this break, right? So he comes off, he's very fast into the break, pops this thing off, fast to the out portion, and then it gets up to the vertical portion, right? So out and up route. So let's talk about this right here, right? So when he's running up into this thing, when he breaks to this out route, yeah, he kind of rounded it a little bit, but that's just so he gets a little bit more burst on the out portion of this. But when we take any kind of break, right? Let's say you're running, just keep it simple. Let's say right here he was running just a comeback. This stem portion that I circled right here where he's actually running up, you want to be as fast as you possibly can in most situations. In most situations. Sometimes you change up the tempo. Sometimes you might have to take it slow depending on the timing of the play. Maybe you're trying to lull this guy to sleep, like fake a block and then go. So not every time, but most of the time, like 90% of the time, you're trying to move this DB. You're trying to make him go because you know how hard it is from a DB perspective. If you're in a back pedal stance and this guy's coming at you as fast as he can, as hard as he can, and he doesn't have any indicators. What do I mean by indicators? It's like before a break, you don't raise your chest up in the air. You don't start chopping your feet. You actually are running. You have good pad level. Your eyes are forward. Everything about this says vertical. That's what I mean by no indicators. And that's how you sell routes. That's the second key to route running. You got to be a salesman. You got to be a salesman first. Second major key is you got to sell everything you do. Everything you do should have a purpose, right? So that stem, even if you're running a 3-step slant, those 3 steps better be freaking fast. You better have your eyes forward, good pad level, good speed, no indicators to the DB, because if you could even get him to take 2 steps back, you won. You should win that rep every single time if you do everything right. It's not about what we do wrong. It's not about what we do. It's not about what the DB does right. It's about what we do wrong. Excuse me. That's what I meant to say. So if we screw up, that's when the DB looks good. If I don't screw up and I do everything perfect, I should win every single time because I know where I'm going, right? So now let's look at this out portion of it, right? So when he does here, this DB, what's he supposed to be watching? Hips, right? Hips, especially when it's man coverage. This looked like a little bit more like this one-on-one, so obviously it's man. But if it's zone, he's more so going off a feel, right? Because like if it was zone, like let's say he's facing the quarterback here, because maybe he's in like cover 3, cover 4, whatever it is, and you run this out portion of the route, he's going off a feel. So if you have speed to the out break, if you have speed into that break and you commit your body, that makes that DB feel, oh shit, he's running to that out. I better open up. I better speed turn and crash on this thing, and then we could turn this thing upfield. So again, he breaks to this thing. What does he do? He commits his hips and his shoulders, and he has speed into this break. He's not even looking back for the ball. That goes to show your eyes are on everything. Everybody loves to say, like on a sluggo post corner, you got to give those eyes. Or when you're running or when you're running like a curl, your eyes got to be looking over the DB's shoulder. He shouldn't be looking at your eyes, man, because your eyes will lie. A DB knows that the eyes will lie, so he's got to stay disciplined and watch those hips. We want to beat a disciplined DB, not a DB who's undisciplined, right? That's easy. That's a walk in the park if I even relatively know what I'm doing, right? So, again, hips and shoulders on the break, full speed. Now you see how he takes 3 cuts, right? He goes here, it's 1, 2, 3. And you see how sudden that cut is, how explosive that cut is. That ties into what we were just talking about. To make that explosive cut, you got to have speed there. That forces you to have to be sudden with your feet because you know you got to put the brakes on that certain step at that certain yardage. And then you push up vertical and you see how he drives off of this cut leg. You see how he's pushing right there, and that widens that distance from the DB. So again, second key to route running, you got to be a salesman. You got to sell every single thing that you do. Everything you do on that field has to have a purpose. You're not just doing it to do it, right? So let's watch this thing again, full speed. Great job coming off, getting in his break. 1, 2, 3. Pop this thing off, hips and shoulders and speed to the break. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the third key to route running is having a high IQ. Okay, so let's watch this clip full speed. Inside leverage, he's got to run a fade, Antonio Brown. So let's watch it here again. So does a great job attacking that DB and just opening up that gate, or not opening up that gate, but opening up that space for him to be able to work, use his speed to his advantage. Everybody's like, oh, he's just faster than him, right? But he doesn't make this play if he just runs straight there. I don't care who you are. Everybody at this level is fast. That's just a fact. That's a fact of life. Everybody that gets to that next level of football, like from a high school to college jump, everybody's fast. From college to the NFL, you bet your ass everybody's fast. Everybody was the fastest guy on their team, right? So now, when we come off here, so many receivers have been coached wrong and just not necessarily coached wrong, but coached, like, not taught the right things when they needed to, right? The big thing that I focus on with my receivers is that I don't put them through the obstacle course drills. I don't put them through the drills that are just going to work on their cardio. I actually teach them. I actually teach them route combinations. I actually teach them how to run certain routes. I actually teach them when to use certain things rather than set up 84 cones and just have them do cool drills. And then I sit there with my freaking camera phone out and just film them and then post it on Instagram and act like I'm Joe Trainer, right? That's not what you should do. That's not, if you have a coach like that, you should probably run as fast as you can because you're not going to be learning anything. You need to learn concepts. You need to learn when to use this stuff, not how to use it. Because you look at all the best guys All the best route runners have a high IQ, right? So now what brings me to my point is you got this guy inside shade right here. I tell you, nobody works this stem. Nobody works this type of stuff in drills. Nobody drills this type of stuff. They set up the 80 cones and then they do all these fancy footwork drills that aren't going to pay off at all, right? Yeah, it might be good cardio, so what? But that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to know when to do certain things. So we know Antonio Brown, as a receiver, knows inside shade, what does he not want to give up? He does not want to give up his inside. So where do I want to threaten him to move him off that platform? I want to threaten him to the inside, so I want to square this dude up. I want to attack his midline. I want to get him to backpedal. I want to get him to weave, whatever you want to call it, because I know I got to run a fade. He does not know that you have to run a fade. It's all about deception. Again, that's what I'm talking about in the last clip. It's all about being a salesman. So you see how he angles his stem to the inside and he pushes up vertical. What does that DB do? Keeps his inside leverage, because there's nothing worse than being an inside leverage DB. Guy attacks you, you back up, and you give up a post when you're off man inside shade. It's like, what the hell were you doing? Why would we even have you lined up inside shade in the first place? So that's a great job by Antonio Brown, attacking him, squaring him up. Now look what he's got. He's got space. He's got space for this quarterback to drop this thing in over the top, and he could go win that race to that ball. So that's what you got to focus on as a receiver, IQ, right? So number one, most important key, got to have explosive, got to have sudden cuts. Number two, got to be a salesman with everything you do. And then number three, you got to have a high football IQ and knowledge of route running, knowledge of DB play to be able to get yourself some separation. Let's watch it again, full speed one more time. So he squares him up, attacks him, then pushes vertical. Let's win that race back to the ball. Great job by Antonio Brown of a high football IQ. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, please leave those in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And also 50% off wide receiver gym training program, specific exercises for receivers in the gym to get stronger, faster, bigger, better overall. Check out that very first link in the description. Again, 50% off today only. Hope we get you guys on that soon. I'll see you guys next time.